Hey folks, welcome to our last session of the first day of SX Live. I am so excited to be joined by this panel. We're going to be discussing tackling the challenges of supporting modern SaaS applications. With me, I have three great panelists here. Husam Najib from Rippling, Vineet Puri from Cvent, and Dave Yusef from Q2 Software. Just a short introduction on each of them. Husam began his journey in the corporate world with professional service firms, including PwC and EY. He was driven by a desire to delve deeper into the realm of customer support. Husam made a significant career transition by joining a fast-growing software startup, Rippling, as the VP of Customer Support. In this role, he's been instrumental in building and leading high-performing support teams, developing innovative support strategies, and ensuring exceptional customer experiences. He's based in San Francisco. Vineet Puri is co-head of Global Client Services at Cvent. Vineet has established himself as an expert in customer experience, general management, and scaling and running large operations. In his current role at Cvent, Vineet leads a customer-obsessed team of 1,500 professionals in global client services. This includes customer success, support, professional services, and operations, collectively delivering exceptional customer experiences. He's based in Dubai. Dave Yusef is also customer-focused and a SaaS executive with over 25 years of experience managing full customer lifecycle, including sales, success, implementation, and support in public and PE-owned software firms. He's currently SVP of Global Customer Support at Q2, a leading digital banking solutions provider. His previous services and CS roles span enterprise software firms like Broadcom and CA Technologies, Allscripts, Epicor, Sphera, NextGen Healthcare, and Solutionary. He's based out of Chicago. That's funny, Dave. I'm also former of Broadcom. I didn't realize that. That's really great. So I'm happy to welcome all three of you to the stage here at SX Live to discuss this great topic. I want to dive in with a first question that's going to be for all three of you. I'd like to start with Dave. How would you define the unique challenges that support teams face when providing assistance for modern SaaS applications?
Yeah, good question. So I think one of the challenges that we're finding with SaaS applications and just the current environment that we're dealing with cloud and people working from anywhere, there's so much variability. One day they're on their corporate network, another day they're reaching you on a iPad or a mobile device from a coffee shop or from a hotel Wi-Fi. So it's just a variability, and that introduces quite a bit of complexity and challenges for support. I think the other thing is managing today's complex application brings its own set of challenges, particularly around security. With all of the things that we're seeing that we need to do to maintain the modern SaaS application. And I would say the last is that what we're seeing, particularly in our industry, is that support used to be a reactive kind of business where people would call you, but now it's shifting more and more towards being proactive. Customers are expecting that we're able to self-detect and self-correct and make that experience more of a proactive experience where we're doing this without, engagement from the customer and handling these issues as they occur. So that's, some of the challenges and complexities. And certainly the last point I'll add is just the hiring and the challenges that go with kind of ramping up to support the architectures and the technology stack that we have to run today.
That's great. Vineet, what are your thoughts on that first question?
Yeah, look, I'll start with a good problem that we are having. If you look at this SaaS world, it's exploding. Right? Good SaaS companies are just growing from point solutions, becoming platforms, adding features. All of this growth basically means growing complexity. It means constant volumes. It means a lot of learning for the support reps, for the support teams. So it's a good problem to have, but it's still a problem, right? You're always learning, you're always evolving, you're always kind of keeping up. And your customers have newer queries, they have to be learning and have to be taught. The second big one is, I think, and this is a very interesting one, this is the external view, right? There is so much new technology, the enabling technology for support. So support teams, support leaders, they always have to keep pace with what's coming up, what's new, what's cutting edge. I mean, take for example, support logic, right? You've got this new thing with AI, 100% monitoring, predictive, preventive, AI-based case routing. So you always kind of are ensuring that you're providing cutting edge service, and you're always kind of exploring new tools, the enabling tools which are available. So I think those are the other challenges. I'll just add to what Dave was saying, that we're dealing with every day.
Oh, that makes sense. Husam, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's. I think these guys have covered it, and they have a wealth of experience, kind of beyond my years in support. But I think these guys covered it. I think generally what I say is I think SaaS, it's a broad surface area. Like SaaS models, typically it's like there's a broad product surface area. It's evolving. It requires you to kind of have experts who can work with customers, and Dave mentioned like customer expectations are kind of changing. So I think that's like. I think it's just a dynamic space generally, both in terms of product, customer expectation, and I think contributing to like making the product better also kind of adds to that change, right? It's like, I think that's like a feedback loop that support needs to kind of play. And it's like you thought something was the way it was and it was broken last week and it's fixed this week, and now all of a sudden you have to change your answer and say something different, right? So I think that these guys kind of covered it, but that's what I'd say.
That makes sense. And touching on, sorry, go ahead.
I was just about to say to Sam's point, I think it's the constant need for collaboration within the organization as well. Like support is just kind of an enabler, right? You're gathering all the information and then passing it on, but you have to be working very closely with product and all the other groups.
That makes sense. My next question, I want to lead with Dave. And it ties into something Husam was just talking about with dynamic changes. How are you seeing support teams adapting to handle these applications? What changes are you seeing?
Yeah, so I spent a big chunk of my career sort of managing environments that were on premise, and I think in that environment, when you're working on a single client environment, the impact is to that client. I think that the complexity of a modern SaaS application and environment is that, especially when you start looking at some of these broader, areas like change management, software delivery, you're looking at DevSecOps kinds of things. I mean, those things have huge implications on all of your customers. So I think it brings a level of effort that you have to put in to make sure your processes around change management, incident response, those kinds of things have to take on a new dimension when you're operating in a SaaS environment versus kind of an on-premise. I think the other thing is, kind of just building on the point I made earlier, that the expectations of what we need from even the basic, junior level support people today has gone up. So no longer, somebody with very minimal knowledge is going to cut it. Customers' expectations today are that not only do you know your applications, my industry, and my environment, and all of the things that you need to know to being able to solve it. And by the way, I want you to solve that issue very quickly. So that's a big expectation on some of the junior people. So hiring and training just has taken on a new dimension. For example, I mean, in last year, we found that with the growth we were seeing in our business and just scaling that we had to do, that we could not just kind of follow the normal kind of approach that we've done. So we have now changed our hiring approach. We're now hiring in cohorts of 15 people and put them through a very robust, 12-week training program. These are the kinds of things, and the training is a lot deeper than we've ever done. So no longer is sufficient to just do on-the-job training. So I think those are some of the challenges that we're seeing.
That's really interesting. Vineet, what are your thoughts on that?
I think what support leaders are having to do really is, and this has already started picking up pace, but in the next couple of years, we'll see this is going to really become mainstream. It's about leveraging new technology, AI, automation, and we're already playing with this. This is a game changer. What really support leaders need to do and are doing for the expectation to meet the expectations of the clients, customers, ever evolving state of affairs, rapid growth, and all of that. I think what we need really is this generative AI based technology. So, say a chatbot, you got a problem, it's residing in 5 different KB articles. It's going to go fetch the answer from all of these places, throw it right in front of the person who's supporting or the customer directly. Great, total game changer. So I think a lot of this is about leveraging technology. Dave mentioned training, very important. How deep can you go, and can you constantly ensure that your people have the knowledge they need? Self-service, I think, is the other one, which is very important. And it is about, in-product support. It is about community, KB articles, videos, but kind of be there where the customer needs you rather than make the customer kind of go around and wander and all of that. So those are some of the things that at least I am playing with and trying to adopt. I could go on, but we're not going to leave much for Husam if we continue to do this way.
No, I think that's a great answer, Dave. I keep thinking about the group of 15 that you're training. How did you get to that number? How is that working out?
Well, I think what we're doing is that we're finding when we need capacity, we want to bring them in so that we can manage those as a cohort group. And it makes it easier rather than hiring onesie twosies. It creates a lot of teamwork. These people that come in batches kind of relate to each other, and they kind of, operate, and it makes it easier for us to onboard. And we do some basic, workforce management team is doing capacity planning, and our goal typically is to hire in advance of when we need these resources. So I think, that model actually since last year, we had to hire almost 100 people last year, and, that kind of model has what has helped us.
No, that makes a lot of sense. My next question is for Husam. Can you share with us, I'd love to hear about a concrete example of how positive support experience is impacting your customer retention, driving your business growth. It sounds like that's what you're having such success with right now. So I'd love to hear more about it.
Yeah, sure. Happy to share. So I think support is crucial to helping with retention and business growth. Mostly because I think of retention as basically an output metric to product adoption. And if customers adopt your product, they will be sticky and kind of continue using it. And support is basically that first line of defense to help customers learn how to use their product, right? They run into issues, they ask the support team. So support should really be kind of that first line to help customers use the product, and then they stick around. As far as concrete examples, I don't, can't share too many, but we see it all the time where, customers will have, complaints about support experiences or support responses or something like that, and use that as a source of potentially some sort of churn risk. And then we'll set up some conversations with them, drive certain, if they have some long lingering support cases that we need to kind of drive to resolution or something like that, right? It's that definitely happens on the retention side. On the business growth, I think you're not going to be able to sell to a customer who's having a hard time using their existing products. So if you think of business growth in terms of cross-selling new products, it's very, very relevant for us at Rippling. We're a multi-product company, and a big part of our growth comes from selling to our existing customer base. So the experience customers have with support day to day drives that in a big way. If Dave was a customer of ours and he was using our payroll product and he didn't like the support experience he was getting, and then we launch a new product, in the IT space, it's we're not gonna be able to sell that to Dave. But if Dave likes, it's nobody likes support, but if he likes the response that he's getting, he likes the responsiveness that he's getting, he ultimately gets his issues resolved, he's more amenable to like a growth conversation about, hey, like Dave, like how can this help your business? As opposed to the flip side, if you're having bad support interactions, it's like it's a non-starter. Like you're not going to be able to sell to them.
Yeah.
I think you've hit on a key point there. I think there is a definite correlation between creating customers for life and the role support plays in it. And we see that every day. And I have this, simple belief and philosophy that over the years that we've seen that happy customers buy more and happy customers tell others to buy. And I think that very much holds true today in social media world, where experience of one customer generally cannot be hidden from other customers. So the more positive experiences and interactions we can drive as a support organization, that's important. And I think the other key point is that support is, it's a tough business. Some days go better than others. And so it's not, we're not perfect. So one of the key things is transparency. I think, customers really appreciate the engagement and transparency, regardless of how the resolution journey goes. And some days it goes better than others. The transparency and the connection with the customers resonate every day.
I'm going to add to this, Ryan. I totally agree with Dave, you and Husam. I think, look, and this is slightly controversial. I'd say that support is where the relationships are truly formed with the customer. Now, when I put my success hat on, then I would argue that, look, success is where the relationship is formed because we go proactive, we go informed, we've seen the usage data and all of that. But here is the other thing. When is a relationship really formed? When do people call support? When they're stuck. I bought this product and I really wanted to deliver something. I have something that I needed to do. It's not doing. Who's going to come to rescue? Normally, you'll call up support. They help you. And that's where the relationship is formed because you know that I'm now starting to get the value which I really wanted. So that's what I think, This is where the real value starts to get delivered. And this is where they start to trust you. And this is a very important component. So, generally when we think of it, this is where I would say don't cut corners. It is okay to have some extra people there because when your customers are calling you, they literally need you now. That's not where you want to start doing, I want to cut corners. I want to have 4 less people to support. That's not the right, at least that's not the right game plan for me.
Vineet, says the guy who probably manages the largest team here, in terms of that.
And I'm telling you, it's worked very well. We would sometimes joke, when the product fails, support comes to rescue. So it's doing us good. And we have a great product.
And certainly we don't want to minimize any of the other functions. It takes a village to create a customer for life. And I think all of the functions are very critical. We look at the world in customer journey, and customer journey is part of many other smaller journeys that each of the functions are driving. So, I think, success is a very critical. Having sat on a number of different seats, I think implementation is very critical. All of these functions are very critical, but it collaborative together. I think it creates, and I use this analogy called, the car. And, you have 4 wheels. And I think, so depending on what kind of an organization you are, your sales organization, your success organization may be in the front wheels, but then your product and your support organization on the rear wheels, and the best cars are all-wheel drive. So I think that's what you need.
I love that. I feel like we're kind of getting around that idea of CX being defined by PX and SX and these different pieces. They all got to be part of it. I like what Husam was saying about the stickiness of a product. I think that next level of stickiness is, like Dave, like you're saying, driving those wheels, all-wheel drive. A question that I want to start with Vineet on, and I think is a really valuable thing that we can kind of pivot to is, I think all this starts with customer onboarding. And that is such a critical phase. For you, what are some of the best practices for ensuring that you've got a seamless onboarding experience?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. I mean, it's natural that, once we have spoken about it, we talk about onboarding. I think, look, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is, customers had a great experience with sales. They love the product. They think so. And they bought it, and they put their money in. And this is where really they start to experience the product. So I think the goal has to be to make it frictionless and as smooth as possible. So I'm going to start with 2 pro tips. Look, everyone's onboarding. I'm sure you've got a lot of data. You basically need to take that, leverage that data, overlay the data on the different milestones, and figure out what's not working well. Go fix that, what's not working well. The other thing that I at least use is our newbies. We take our newbies, put them through the onboarding process, look at it from their lens. That's like a new customer's lens, because sometimes, when we're looking at it, we're so used to knowing how the product will function or knowing, the features and all, it kind of goes unnoticed. So kind of put your newbies through it, take the feedback very seriously, fix what you need to fix. So basically walk in your customer's shoes. And this is the best way for you to figure out where the opportunities exist. Now, some of the obvious stuff, right? Have a kickoff call, create a personalized success plan, set expectations, understand your customers' goals, tell the customers about the self-help, how to reach support, knowledge-based articles, basically how to get them unstuck when they get stuck. I'm assuming that most of us would have a dedicated onboarding support team, comprehensive training and resources, and all of that. That's kind of like the given. I think some of the important piece that I look at is really value realization. So instead of just when you are in your own onboarding phase, instead of just solely focusing on the product and features, it's about the value that you can unlock for the customer, help the customer unlock with the purchase they made. So kind of focus on that. One kind of myth is onboarding is one time when a new customer comes in, you onboard, do that. And it's probably not just, you can call it continuous onboarding or customer education. And that education will happen while the customer they're reading an article, they're getting in support, in product support and all of that. But basically, that continuous onboarding is something that has to be looked at. Final thing is about maintaining a healthy balance between human-assisted onboarding and whatever can be automated. But the healthy balance is very important. You don't want to just, everywhere you're throwing just people at it, and you've just left it with automated emails and you're making it happen. The game changer, I think, though, Ryan, is going to be AI-led chatbots-driven onboarding. Kind of just get in the product, the bot's there saying, okay, we will do this now. Let me now help you with this. You've already achieved this. This is where we are headed. So I think there is going to be a very nice, healthy balance of people coming in and doing the strategic stuff, kind of understanding the goals, unlocking the value, and hopefully, some of this technology kind of taking over the mundane task of ensuring the task gets done. I think that's my way of ensuring that onboarding is a great experience and quick time to value for our customers.
That makes a lot of sense. Husam, you have a completely different type of product. I'd love to hear about the onboarding side for you and how with the suite of software that Rippling provides, that's got to be a critical part.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think, Vineet covered a lot of the core requirements. I mean, we, our implementation onboarding, we do a lot of what Vineet mentioned. I mean, I think, I'm big on, Vineet mentioned like controversial topics. I think, implementation, he mentioned it should be seamless. And I really think implementation is, should be quick. It's like really like the longer a customer is in implementation, I think, it delays their realizing of the value of what they paid for. Like we migrated from Zendesk to Salesforce. Our implementation took us like 6 months. You know what I mean? It's like we're paying the subscription fee. It took us several months to kind of get our hands on, start using it. So like the shorter the time to implement, I think the better. self-serve, but I think it's like a product philosophy. It's like how much can you make your product be something that customers can pick up and use on their own pretty quickly. So we lean on that very heavily. We try to make sure we put a lot of pressure on our product team to make sure implementation timelines are short. We also purposely kind of like force a lot of things through self-service to just kind of drive that flywheel back into the product, making the product kind of do stuff. And then as Vineet said, obviously having hands-on assisted, either managed fully kind of like let us do the implementation for you versus like guide you through it type of thing. So we have different tiers of that. But yeah, and then we vary it by product. Certain products, if you're adding a couple of our core products, it's like you get like one set of implementation experts helping you out, and then as you add additional products, it kind of adds on to that from a complexity perspective. But then we run them all like concurrently and try again. Like I said, the goal is not to have customers kind of sit in a purgatory of implementation for too long.
That makes a lot of sense. We're back to kind of talking about products and stuff. And Dave, I want to pivot this question to you. As these products start to evolve more rapidly, as they start to have more rapid release times, that troubleshooting and that issue resolution, I think it becomes more challenging. What strategies or tools are you using to, employ and efficiently identify and resolve these issues?
Yeah, no, great question. I mean, I think, one of the key things that we're doing is, as I mentioned earlier, we're doing a very heavy pivot towards proactive monitoring. And it used to be that, we would all monitor the infrastructure level, network is up, the CPU and the memory and those kinds of things. But I think gone are those days where that's just sufficient. You have to be able to monitor the full application stack. And in our case, for example, we provide digital banking solutions. So our software has to integrate with the core banking applications. So not only are we making sure our systems are up, but the connectivity between our system and the core banking applications that the customer may be running, Fiserv or FIS or Jack Henry, whatever it may be, that those things are up. So we have to do the full infrastructure monitoring, the security monitoring. We're monitoring for performance, which is a key requirement these days. We're monitoring for all of the services and components that are running underneath there. So we do, for example, synthetic logging as a user, not only just from within our network, but from various points to make sure the performance is there, but also that we can go in and transact as a normal customer would be coming in. And then on top of that, we're also making sure that it's all secure, right? So there's a tremendous amount of proactive monitoring that has to be done. And we generate, for example, self-alerts where we start contacting customers when we start seeing any of these service degradations. If performance falls below a certain threshold, we start reacting to it. I think the other key thing is that, again, in that same spirit, you have to be able to build high availability environments where you have resiliency built into it, and you have the ability to increase and decrease workload when something is going on. All of a sudden, some promotions may be run by our customers, and we see that the demand on their servers are going up. Do we have the ability to increase workload that they're on? So you making use of technology like virtualization and containerization, where you can have these workloads go up, are very, very important. The last point, I would add on that is the self-service piece of it. I think, for us, that is an important differentiator that we have. Almost more than 2/3 of our case volume is handled through self-service. And we've gone a step further where we've actually built that into the back office application that our customers use to run their banking. They can actually open up cases and they can do a lot of these self-service things right from the product that they have, and they don't have to go into our customer portal and do that. And that drives a tremendous amount of volume and acceleration in terms of resolution time for our customers.
That's really interesting. Vineet, can you expand on that? What are your thoughts on how you're keeping customers informed and tracking with your products?
Sure. Look, the releases are very common. It's required. The product is evolving at a very rapid pace, and so is the support team's knowledge. So the two things I would point out, and I think Dave alluded to it as well. One is self-service. The second one is support. But essentially, what we very heavily bank on is feature notes and descriptions. That's really the thing that comes to rescue. So when a new release happens, there is a good detailed write-up available for that. That's made available to the reps, and that's what's made in a good manner made available to the customers through self-help KB articles, and we have a new bot that we have created. This is what I call an agent assist bot. The purpose of the bot is key in a question, and it'll just fetch you an answer from wherever, whatever has happened. It'll give you the most relevant piece instead of giving you like a 7-page document, go read. What normally would happen on a call, hey, sorry, oh yeah, I've got your case. I'm going to research on this. Can I put you on hold for a minute? And then you come back after a minute and, hey, I'm still researching. Give me another minute. And then you come back and I'm researching because it's a new feature, say, or it's a bug, or it's a workaround that is needed. Now you don't have to, because it'll just throw you the 7 steps from 3 different articles right in front of you. You can read it out, give it back in case notes, send an email. So, I mean, that's what we are really using. It's still in a pilot test phase. We've been doing it for about 4 weeks now, and very encouraging results. We're looking at something like 85% accuracy using this. So kind of a tool which could be a game changer in the very near future.
Wow.
I think it's interesting. Like when you mentioned 85% accuracy, I guess I wonder like that stuff's really powerful, but it's like that 15% is dangerous, right? It's like if somebody doesn't know, it's like you've pulled something together from like 5 different places, cobbled together an answer that looks right. And like, I'm an expert, but I obviously wasn't, I asked the bot because I didn't know the answer off the top of my head. So if you put together an answer, it's like, I'm curious, how do you identify, how do you know for certain that error is not higher, right?
So at this point, look, it's 4 weeks into production, still kind of figuring it out, fixing it and all of that. But it is an agent assist bot at this point in time. This is not a customer facing bot. The job of the agent assist bot is to make our reps more efficient. So it's not like we're not replacing rep training with the bot yet. I think that will happen at a point in time, but people are still going to be trained. So the reps already have the knowledge, but you're stuck in a situation, you know what it is, but you have to go and find that, write it down. You don't have to do it anymore. It's got it already. If you still need validation, you've got the Slack channel, which has got floor support available. Punch it there. Somebody will tell you, or Slack with its inbuilt capability will go reference a previous article and say, in the last situation, this is what was done. So that's what's being done. But look, 4 weeks, 85% accuracy is great. And I'll tell you very honestly, first week we were at 60%. So you had to redo the phrases, fix the lingo of the question. If the same feature is in different products, it could go and reference the wrong product. So you kind of do the vector differently. It only points now. So that's where we are. But it's an assist bot. The idea is to make our people more efficient and be able to do that much more. So that's what it's doing. But I think we'll get to a point where we are more confident. And it's not replacing, training and all of that. It's just there to assist you and make it easier.
Yeah, no, we've been doing a pilot with a generative AI technology, a bot that's kind of going to be there to look at. I mean, we have huge product documentations that neither our people or the customers want to read these 300-page guides, but they are full of a lot of information. So we've been sort of, testing and piloting on that. And we did actually a generative AI-based chatbot pilot. One interesting thing that we learned is that the technology is great, and I think it holds a lot of potential. But it still has that, outcome which people are calling hallucination. And we certainly saw that there were certain things you could ask. The technology is phenomenal. It gives you an answer that looks very believable and very real and well constructed, but sometimes it's not 100% accurate. So I think that's the thing. As we were looking at how we leverage this, I think that's one of the things that we're struggling with is, how do we kind of protect around those things where we don't go and share the wrong information.
And Dave, on hallucination, there is you can set a level of inaccuracy where it'll just say that this is the funny thing, the support person is actually asking the query and it says, I don't have the answer, please reach out to support. Like, really?
Yeah.
But the hallucination part can be avoided by just telling it that if you don't have the answer, don't make it up.
Yep.
That makes a lot of sense. It's funny, in this talk about generative AI and these chat tools, it reminds me of something that we were all dealing with 10, 15 years ago with search engines. And, if you search for something and you don't get the result, you're affecting the trust of how that search engine works at all. And that's what's kind of interesting about this too is and I like, Vineet, what you're doing where you're trying it internally first to build that efficacy and that trust level, because when folks start to use this, you've got to have it working pretty well, or else you erode some of that, does this work at all idea. And something I want to pivot to when we're talking about tools is, a lot of the applications that we're discussing, they integrate with other systems and platforms. How do you approach supporting your customers that have these integration challenges, ensuring that there's a smooth integration? And then to get specific, because I'd love to have more takeaways for folks that are watching, let's talk about the tools and the resources that you're using in this space. Dave, I'd love to lead off with you on this one.
Yeah. So I mean, I think as far as the tools, I mean, we one of the ones, I mean, I think, that I wanted to kind of highlight is the support logic tool that we're using. I think that's been a big hit for us. Last year, one of the things that we were struggling as we shifted towards becoming more proactive, and, we still needed to have some ability for customers to be able to respond to escalations in a reactive fashion. But, we implemented support logic, and that has actually yielded a significant improvement for us. I mean, our escalations compared to, year over year are down almost, 60, 70%. We're probably sitting now at the lowest point in terms of escalations. So I think, not only just, kind of for knowledge and all of that, but, using AI technology and particularly being able to use natural language processing to gauge customer sentiment. I think those are some of the things that we're, kind of leveraging.
That's awesome. Husam, do you deal with that with integrations and with your software for your customers and other tools that they're using?
Yeah, we do. I mean, the way we approach it is, I mean, we have an API that customers. So we do two things. One is customers have access to a Rippling API that they can build kind of custom integrations off of and custom stuff off of. I'm definitely not technical as custom stuff. And then we separately have partners who we build, fully kind of larger scale integrations with, who we then kind of support separately. And both of these things, we actually have a developer kind of support team that's kind of standalone, kind of carved out, that actually supports the API and supports these partners who have built larger kind of integrations through the API and through our kind of connection tools. But that's kind of how we've done it. It's just, it's a different kind of type of support versus platform support when you're supporting this type of thing. So I think it's just a bit different.
Yeah, no, I apologize. I missed a point on that integration piece. I think, you're spot on, Husam. I mean, I think we're doing the same thing. We have a SDK and we have a huge ecosystem that's developing applications around it. I think, the challenge is when a customer calls, how do you separate that, whether it's something that may have been custom developed using SDK and what is part of. So I think, we have a triage process that we built into being able to route the calls. But, support is starting to play. Initially, it was our development team that was handling a lot of the SDK, but now support is, kind of front and center in that process.
That makes sense. A question I'd love to pose to all three of you, and I want to start with Vineet. A popular topic in support circles is what's the right model? There are support organizations that have traditional tiered support, and then there's single tier swarm support. I'd like to hear from each of you what your take is on that and what your thoughts are when it comes to, of course, escalations, and what those tiers do for your organization, if you have them.
So look, there is no right model, I would say. I think we leverage both. There is advantage of the tiered support model, basically clearly defined hierarchies, specialized roles. You have an escalation team for complex issues. Uh, so all of that. So it's very clearly defined ownership. You've taken control of it, and you will resolve it. So, and then better utilization of your people. And then on the swarming side, it is great. It is moment of truth. I need my app support team. I need someone from product. I need my escalation team. All of them can come together and actually solve the problem. The problem is you need a lot of people just on standby, because literally like moment of truth, right? But I'd say depending on the nature of the problem, like if there was something which for us is the day of support, the event is happening, like our event, and we needed support now, swarming is great. We need just everyone in and just solve the problem. If it isn't one of those issues which has to be dealt with now, I'm not going to just keep all my resources on standby to do that. So kind of both have their advantages and disadvantages. They just have to be used the right way for the right type of problem.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I mean, there's pros and cons to each one of the models. I mean, I spent working in support organizations that have used both. And, first of all, I mean, there's no perfect, each one of them comes with their own pros and cons. And there are certain functions and things that you have to be able to develop. I think the challenge that we're starting to see is that as we start clearing a lot of these easy stuff through chatbots and AI-based tools, it's leaving a lot of the complex kind of cases. And I think, if you kind of stay within a tiered model with that kind of a setup, the challenge it creates is that you're going to bottleneck at the L2 and L3 levels. So I think as we start getting more and more of this technology and AI stuff to start clearing the easy stuff, I think it puts us more towards the swarming model. And in most of the organization, I don't think it's a pure, you're either here or there. For example, we're in a tiered model, but we use swarming, and we do have individuals that sit in, that jump in to help our different level L1, L2 resources. And we have cross-functional channels where we can pull in resources. So, we're not purely what we would call a swarm model, but we have elements of that we baked into that, because you cannot just survive without that.
Yeah, I interestingly have a different opinion here. I really strongly believe that skills and like specialized like routing is the best customer experience. Customers want to be talking to an expert. It's like I hate the primary care doctors, because it's like I want to go straight to like, the orthopedic surgeon to talk about my knee. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like I don't. So it's like if I can go straight to a specialist. So we've been specialized from the beginning, and my background was actually not in support. So when I came here, I had to kind of do some research quickly to figure out how did I want to set this team up. And I spoke to several leaders. Interestingly, I didn't talk to Vineet or Dave. Otherwise, it might have swung me a different direction. But I spoke to several folks, and they basically said that, I think similar to what Dave, what you were saying is like, you kind of hit certain limits with the tiered approach. I think tiered kind of works. A lot of people think it's like Vineet said, I think it's like very efficient. It's typically like fairly cost effective. You can kind of use, tier one, maybe outsource, or it's like your entry point and you kind of progress people. But for our product in particular, we felt like it was multi-product. So we wanted to make sure we were routing to the right like specialist. Like if you're asking a payroll question, let's not have it go to like the insurance team. And then within that, it's like, so there's that. And then further, it's just like, I think like the swarm kind of allows for people to really, we actually say in like tiered, it's like kind of set up in a pyramid this way, where it's like tier one is kind of the broadest and you kind of narrow up. We actually say we're the opposite, where you start out really narrow, focused on a very small subset of the product. And as your career progresses, you kind of get broader. And that way from day one, you get to add a lot of value. So like when I joined, I spent my first 6 weeks answering one subset of our payroll product is time off. If like Dave wants to take time off, or Vineet has like, accrual questions, it's like we have a time off product. And so I did that. And like by focusing on just time off within payroll, I became a time off expert. And within a few weeks, I started writing help center articles. I started like working closely with the product team. And this was like literally within 3 to 4 weeks of me joining. And I think that's what many of you guys mentioned, like training, hiring challenges. And I think we avoid some of those problems by being very narrowly specialized. I did have to spend a lot of time thinking about career pathing and developing like how does the org grow? Like how does someone become, how does their career progress? Like tiers definitely have like their like standard career path. So we've built like a product expert kind of path, where as you progress, you kind of do different things. You pivot away from solving tickets day to day. We actually have our more senior agents who we call leads. We actually have them running training, because similar to like the physician model, right? It's like you go to med school, you learn from like a generalist, but then you go to residency, then you actually learn from like a practicing physician, because you want to learn from the expert. So we have our leads kind of who they do like primarily they do enablement, training, content creation, and then they're available for that swarm, like extra assistance of like those edge cases that like the kind of earlier specialists don't know. And it's a cool career path, because it's like they get to use that product knowledge in different ways. And then as they continue to progress, they start to work more closely with product and identifying like tooling requirements or features and things like that. So it's we've kind of built around that way. I think we approach it just really, it's like customers want resolution as quickly as possible, and the tiered approach just felt like it wasn't going to work for us.
Yeah, no, I think you have a valid point, Husam, there that, we, for example, although we have a tiered model, we have a very specialized model that you come into the right area. So I would say you come into, a cardiology department, you don't come into a general practice. But then within the cardiology, our tiered levels are whether you need an interventional cardiologist, you need a heart failure specialist, or you need a cardiovascular surgeon. That's our tiering model, is depending on, yes, you're coming into cardiology and you have an issue, but how do you work up? So that's kind of how we've set up our tiered. But I agree with you 100% that it's got to be some level of specialization and not pure generalist.
I'm going to add to this. So just staying with cardiology. So for us, exactly, these are the different departments you come in. But when in cardiology, and if in this case you needed all three cardiologists, and I don't know, Dave, who you spoke about, but if you needed all of these three cardiologists, three different specialities to come together, that's when we go to swarming. Yeah. So, okay, you are in for, say, a particular product, but in that product, you need a resolution now, and that resolution is not with the rep because, say, it's a workaround that is needed. That's when you get in the app support. That's when you get in the product. So all of them come together, and they will solve the customer's query. But the need for that solution has to be now. If it can wait, there's no point getting, your product team to stop coding or your app support to stop fixing something in the sandbox and pulling everyone, hey, we need to solve this now. But there is no need. Yeah, the customer said that, okay, this is my query. Check with them. Okay, we're going to need 2 days. Are you okay with that? Yes, we are okay with that. We'll come back to you in 2 days. So, in the department, when we needed all three cardiologists to come together, we would use swarming. But normally we would let all of these departments to kind of function without having to worry about each other.
Agreed.
Oh, that makes sense. We're coming up on a 10-minute warning, and something that I want to close with is I'd love to hear from each of you your top 2 recommendations or takeaways for support teams that are watching this, that are looking to tackle some of the challenges that they're facing. They're also supporting modern SaaS applications. What's a couple of takeaways that you can leave them with? Dave, I'd love to start with you.
Yeah, no, I think it's just some of the things that, we talked about already. I think for us, self-service is a big, although we're doing a lot of work, we continue to put a lot of focus around self-service. I think, just modernizing the tech stack that we use in support is a big area for us. We're constantly looking at how we can improve both the experience of our employees who are providing support, and then also the customers. So we've been building a lot of modernization in our support stack, and we're all, fully using the Salesforce. So we're constantly looking at all the things that they're coming in, the tighter integration with our contact center, with our service desk, and now integrating it with tools like Support Logic from an AI perspective. So I think that's a big focus. And one of the other things that we've done is just continuously rethink training and onboarding. So we've had programs all along, where we're doing kind of the old school training, but that doesn't cut it. And the days of where you go and develop a lot of knowledge content that could be served at the appropriate time just seems a very burdensome kind of a process. So I think, again, leveraging AI for training purposes is a big use case that we're looking to drive. So those are some of the the big things. And I think the last point I wanted to make is just we believe very strongly in monitoring, managing, measuring customer experience, and we look at all aspects of our business and support. We've historically looked at NPS as one of the indicators for that, but we have now evolved into more of a balanced scorecard. So we have a CX scorecard that we use, which has many of the variables beyond just the NPS that we factor in, and things like escalation, for example, what we're doing with support logic factors into that balanced scorecard. And I think we find that is a much better indicator of how the customer is feeling versus just the NPS.
That's great. Vineet, I want to toss it to you next. And then we had a question from the audience that wanted to drill, I think, a little bit deeper down into the tools that you're building. And they wanted to hear about how an agent can tell if an answer is made up. If you could integrate that into your answer.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I think Dave's covered most of it, but yeah, my picks are going to be, my advice to support leaders is be on the watch out for what technology is coming in. You have to embrace it. You have to appreciate it. You have to start using it. You won't do it. Somebody else will do it for you. Simple as that. So support logic, and I've studied support logic pretty deeply. I think you've got a great product with AI-based routed case routing, sentiment analytics, 100% monitoring. I mean, what else can you ask for a support leader? 100% of the transactions are getting monitored and flagged for SOS action as required. So that's great. I think you have to be on the lookout for that. AI automation is big for me, and I'll talk about the tool from an AI automation perspective. The other one I'm going to talk about is proactive and personalized support. We need to be, and there is enough technology which is either available or is going to be made available very soon for being able to give proactive support. You don't really need to wait for a customer to run into trouble. You can monitor basis the red flags. You can actually go fix it even before they encounter it. And personalized support. What is it that they truly need? Now on the tool, look, you'll have to play with the tool. And I can almost assure you, there are providers, so you don't even have to take the pain that I'm taking right now. There are many providers who will give you an off-the-shelf generative AI-based chatbot. The problem is, at least when I tried a couple of years ago, it totally failed, and this was with one of the most reputed companies. But this latest with Open AI and ChatGPT, it has now become a reality, and it works. And I'm testing it myself, so I know it. And like I said, the accuracy is improving by the day. I'm very confident that we will touch the number that we need, close to 100%. And once we do that, we'll still run it parallel for 6 months. There is no rush with this. So how do you know that? Again, the use case of this is going to change. It is the phased manner that you need to approach a generative AI-based chatbot. For me, in the beginning, it is just about making it easier for my reps. Just make their lives easy. Next is the efficiencies which are going to come out of it. At a level when we get to a 95, 100% accuracy, that is when you totally start relying on this. But before that, there is no rush. As a rep, at least, with the intensive training that we do, we train our support people for about 6 months. 3 months classroom, 3 months one-on-one mentoring, and after 6 months is when you get signed off to be able to attend to the customer queries independently. And then we have Slack channels for floor support and all that. We're not trying to shortchange any of that because we've got a bot now. When in doubt, pick up the solution, put it on Slack. The floor support group or Slack itself will tell you whether it makes sense or not. So the idea is not that it is going to solve 100% of your problems today, but if it is solving 80% of your problems, that's a great advancement that you've already made in your lives. So that's how I'm using it. I would advise go easy, go slow on this, but just embrace it, adopt it, start using it.
Love that. Husam, what are your final words, your key takeaways?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned like advice, key takeaways, advice to people like attending here, running support teams. I mean, I think my perspective, I mean, everything these guys have said is valid. I think they're all kind of spot on. I think to add incrementally things that they haven't said, there's two things that stand out to me. Number one is like know your customers and understand like the needs of your customers. And I spend a lot of time trying to like, for example, when we set like our SLAs for response times, I did a correlation of CSAT to TFR. Like it was like, okay, like how long, like at what point does it really start to break? And I started looking at like bad CSAT comments and like when do people really start complaining about the responsiveness? And then I use that to set a line. And then I talked to some customers and like, you know, like have a customer point of view. I think support can typically be, you know, pretty like reactive to what customers want, but like you can also be proactive to like understanding like what customers are kind of what they need, what their needs are. So like that's number one. And then number two, again, adding like incrementally to what these guys said, I think like this might be controversial, but I think like management prowess in support organizations is something that I've like felt is a struggle. Like I think you end up with large teams, you end up with potentially like promoting like some junior folks into management for the first time. I think there really needs to be accountability for teams. If you're managing a team, the way we run it here at Rippling is like, if you're managing a team, you're fully responsible for everything about that team. If your agent says like the wrong thing to the customer, it's your fault. Like you didn't train them, but why not? Go learn what you need to know. Like train, like you're responsible for the team, metrics, everything. So like we're pretty strict about accountability when it comes to teams, and we cascade that kind of upwards. You know, buck stops with me, obviously, but you know, our CEO would say the buck stops with him. You know, it's like literally everyone takes that accountability mindset, and I think that's really, it's like doubly important in support, just because I think there's a lot of metrics. There's a lot of like, it's ripe for like new employees join. It's like a high turnover space. There's like new managers. It's like, it's easy for there to be poor accountability and bad management.
I think those are great insights. Sorry, Vineet, go ahead.
So I was about to say that I'm tempted to say, agree with you, Sen. I mean, managing large teams is all about accountability, dashboards. What are you measuring, reinforcing? One angle that we totally missed, I think, in our discussion is the culture of putting the customer at the heart of what you're trying to do and having an outcome focused mindset. So the problem that sometimes support faces is you treat everything like a transaction. So a customer called you for a particular thing, and that's all you're concerned about in solving. Rather, I think what we try and promote is you got it, own it, and be very mindful of the outcome that you want to deliver. It's not just about that one little transaction where the customer got stuck and the customers reached out to you for it. Just think of it. If the customer's getting stuck here, what are the next 3 problems they're going to face? Guide them to how they can avoid it. Just look at the whole setup. If you can, just look at the whole setup and kind of. So I think that mindset is very important. As it is said, you know, culture eats strategy for breakfast. It's about creating that culture of truly feel for the customer and solve it for the customer rather than monkey off my back. That's if you got the first call, and if after that we got a dissat because you kind of managed that situation and the customer called and somebody else took the transaction or reached out to us through chat or deferred, and you got a dissat, just going back to Sam's point, the impact is on the first person who did not handle it well. It's not on the third person who finally got a dissat or resolved it. So I think it's that whole mindset of not just get over with this transaction and it'll go to somebody else if the customer's not happy and it's that person's problem. We don't let that happen at all. So it's that culture about taking total accountability of solving the customer's problem. I think that is at the core. And then comes technology, which is the enabler of making it easy.
I love that. I love that. Folks, we've got just a few seconds left. I want to thank you all for such a rich conversation, such a rich panel. I loved all of your answers. I thought we went in so many directions. Thank you for joining us for SX Live. I appreciate it. I invite you and the folks watching to join us for future panels over the next 2 days.